Our next speaker has a tough act to follow. He is the acting Consul General of the nation of Germany, Michael Ott. And I want you to know that it's easy, and you guys know this, but it's easy to condemn a person from a country that we view as maybe wicked or evil. It's easy to do that. But the country is the people, not the government. And I'm very aware that the Nazis committed many atrocities, and I'm not trying to minimize that. For my survivor friends, I hope you know that about me. But I have thought many times since I saw the movie Schindler's List that given the wrong set of circumstances, had I been born in an inopportune time and with the same parents who loved God and believed what the church said, that I could have been deceived into the same delusion as the Nazis, and that is very sobering to me. Very, very sobering. And when I lived in Germany, I used to joke that if God hadn't made me an American, he would have made me German, because when I was in Germany, nobody ever asked me if I wasn't German. I loved it, I fit in, I love the culture, I love the food. But you know what? The people, there are wicked people everywhere, and there are good people everywhere. And Consul Ott was with us 2 years ago in College Station, some of you may remember, and he has a heart of compassion for Jewish people, and he and his wife are brave enough to come here, and we appreciate that. And he represents first his nation and then himself. He's doing both jobs today. He took on a hard task that I gave him, so let's welcome him.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife and I thank you for inviting us to be here with you at this occasion. As she said, I was first asked to represent my country and do my official duty as acting Consul General and report a little bit about the measures that the German government has taken in its continued fight against all forms of anti-Semitism. Germany, and nowadays the overwhelming majority of its people, will not forget the atrocities committed in its name and by many citizens during the Nazi period. Living up to the crimes committed and to fight against the repetition has been a defining principle since the creation of the Federal Republic of Germany. How do we fight against anti-Semitism now, and how do we acknowledge that unfortunately it's still very much necessary to be vigilant and to combat old and new forms of hate, prejudice, and defamation? In 2018, the German government passed with an overwhelming majority a motion which declared, against the background of the Shoah and the deprivation of rights and murder of 6 million European Jews, Germany bears a special responsibility in the fight against anti-Semitism. We must draw attention to anti-Semitism, warn against it, and combat it loudly and visibly. It must be clear to anyone living in this country that there is no room for anti-Semitism in Germany. Whoever enters the territory of the Federal Republic of Germany enters the territory of our Constitution, the Basic Law. Any attempt to call into question the dignity of a person of the Jewish faith calls into question our free society as a whole and will not be tolerated. In the follow-up to this motion, the position of a federal anti-Semitism commissioner was created, who since May of 2018 coordinates measures and actions to combat anti-Semitism for the whole of the German government. One of the results was in October 2020, a new law was passed, especially designed to counter lies, accusations, and misinformation on the internet, which unfortunately and particularly has become a hotbed of rumors and conspiracy theories during the ongoing COVID-19 crisis. Internet providers in Germany are now not only obliged to delete such postings, as they were before, but to inform actively the police. A special body within the federal police has been created to follow up on such information. Furthermore, in criminal trials, anti-Semitic motives for crimes committed are from now on officially aggravating circumstance when considering the punishment. And finally, during the German EU presidency in the second half of 2020, as well as during the year-long presidency of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which ended this 1st of April, Germany actively pursued a multilateral approach to engage as many partners as possible in the fight against anti-Semitism, hate, and intolerance. So much for the official part. A few words on more personal level. Thank you. I discovered Germany's history for its most part through school and interest in reading about history. And one defining moment happened when, at the age of 14, we made a school trip to Munich. And part of the trip was a visit to the concentration camp in Dachau. At that time, the display was less international as you will find it today when you go and visit. There were replicas from reports of the camp administration, excerpts of reports of so-called medical experiments describing the most barbaric treatments, orders how to kill and to execute the prisoners, etc. But those texts were not translated into foreign language. They were put up in German, and next to it was only a little sentence saying, "Report by Dr. Mengele," or similar. As I stood there, transfixed, reading the often bureaucratic, ice-cold language describing the worst human suffering imaginable, an Italian couple approached me and asked if I could translate for them what I was reading. I tried. And after a very short time, I had an audience of 6 or 8 listeners, all following me, all from different countries. Me, a 14-year-old German, in the early stages of my English studies, stumbling over words to translate the atrocities that fellow Germans had committed against Jewish victims, how the selection process at the ramps took place, how death was created by these so-called medical experiences. It was horrible, and the worst came at the end of the exhibition when one of these people wanted to give me a tip for I had to translate it. I turned around, ran out of the room, tears in my eyes, kind of broke down outside. It was guilt, pure guilt. This was how I really learned about it, how and when I realized that atrocities like this must never be allowed to be repeated. And since this time, it is my conviction that only by remembering, by confronting students and young people with this heritage, by making them listen to testimonials like we've just heard it, only through education is it possible to create a foundation that will inspire them to fight against hate, prejudice, and intolerance. What I consider to be important is to speak up whenever in a conversation, insinuations, or worse, when conspiracy theories are expressed. This can be awkward, but it is necessary to tell the person sitting next to you that they are wrong, that even so-called carelessness is wrongfulness. It is the daily anti-Semitism, the disguised prejudices that must be pointed out, which each and every one of us must oppose. Thank you.